Okay, the next topic we have is 4.3 flowcharts and process mapping. What is a flowchart? Flowchart is simply something that you can see right now in your screen at the top and the bottom right corner. So flowchart basically is a graphical representation, step-by-step representation of information, and these flowcharts can be made for computer systems as well as for any manual process. So flowchart is simply a graphical representation of the step-by-step progression. If you just look at this is the starting point, then there's some decision diamond, then there are certain processes, and then finally it ends somewhere here. So it's a step-by-step progression of information through preparation, authorization, flow, storage, any system that you want to bring in some graphical form. And as I told you, the flowcharts could be made for manual systems as well as computerized system, or as a combination of both systems or manual system. Okay, now how would it influence the work of the auditor from the internal audit point of view? For internal auditor, it is very important to understand the system where he will be performing his work of internal audit. So the best understanding for the system in the preliminary review stage can come from a flowchart. If an auditor can construct a flowchart of business processes, business activities, whether computerized or manual, it will give a very good bird eye view of the whole systems, whole operations, whole processes. So that's what it says, that the system depicted by manual, computerized, or combination, as we've discussed. So it allows the internal auditor to analyze areas of audit emphasis. When the internal auditor can see the whole bird eye view of the business processes, business activities through a flowchart, then the auditor can identify the area that he could emphasize during the audit. He can identify some problems, some issues that are of audit significance, like there is lack of segregation of duties, or there is some risk that has not been mitigated by organizational processes. So he can identify certain areas that need more attention than others. So it says that auditor uses flowcharts during preliminary survey because systems can be complicated, and it is not easy for the auditor to walk through all the systems himself. So if a flowchart is constructed, it will be a good way of getting a graphical grasp on the system, how the system works, how the process takes place. The auditor uses flowchart during preliminary survey to gain an understanding of the client processes and controls. There are certain standard symbols that we use in constructing flowcharts. I remember in a CIA question, only the information would be there. You are not required to draw anything because all three parts are MCQ based, so there is no construction of any flowchart. So I recommend that you need to memorize some basic, just maybe 10 to 15 basic symbols of that are ANSI mandated that we use in constructing the flowcharts. So these symbols you need to memorize. This symbol indicates starting and ending. This symbol indicates input or output of a document or report. You can see this is for the computer operation, this is for manual operation. This sign is generalized symbol. When input output is not defined, meaning this symbol could mean a mouse, it could mean a keyboard, it could mean a computer screen, LCD screen. It could represent anything, input output, when the medium is not specified. This sign indicates a hard drive used for input or output. This indicates hard drive with other digital media used for storage. So this is the hard drive that is live, and this is for the storage. This is the decision symbol. We will see it in just like this. I told you that this indicates a decision symbol where the decision has to be made, either or. And then we have the next slide showing some more symbols. Connection between points on the same page, like this symbol will be used. Let me just draw and then I'll explain. Like for example, we are on page number 7, this symbol written as B in some flowchart, and on the same page we have shown this symbol here with B, which means this is in fact connected with this. So instead of just drawing this line which looks quite untidy, we'll simply put a B here and a B here, which means these two are connected. Fine. Now this symbol, which you can see here, it connects something on item number page number 13. This itself is page number 4, for example. When we go on page number 13, you will see the same sign there, and this sign indicates that this is connected to page number 4, which means that something on page number 4 is connected to page number 13, and this page 13 means this item here is connected to page number 4. So this is a connection between two pages of the flowchart that are distinct from each other, 4 and page number 13. Okay. Then we have this sign indicates storage that is not immediately accessible by computers, like offline storage. This sign indicates flow direction of data or processing. This is for the video display unit. If you just look at this, it looks like a cathode ray tube, and I'm sure the original, if you have been reading computer sciences, you should be aware that the earlier computers were basically cathode ray tubes. They were just fluorescent screens and then electronic gun used to brighten the screen up. So we no longer use this, but the sign is still being used. This sign is shown for video terminal, which in fact is a modified cathode ray tube. This sign is a manual input into the computer terminal. Looks like a keyboard from the side. This is the way how I have memorized this. And this last sign here shows a machine tape. It is no longer used as such, so but still the sign hangs on because we no longer use machine tapes for input output. It is outdated now. Alright, next we have horizontal flowcharts. What they are. Horizontal flowcharts, sometimes also called the system flowcharts, they show the areas of responsibility that have been arranged horizontally. Let me show you first and then move forward. This is what you call a horizontal flowchart, in which we have various functions. Let me take the highlighter. Here we go. Purchasing department. This is what the purchasing department is doing. Requisition, purchase order, binder. We'll see that in detail in our accounting cycles. Then there is computer processing. This is a computer department. Then there is a receiving department, horizontal. So you can see it is laid out horizontally. So such flowcharts are called horizontal flowcharts, or simply the system flowcharts. So accordingly, what they show activities of different departments, the various controls being exercised, how the documents are flowing. We will be seeing all these in your subunit 4.4 when we will be doing accounting cycles. There are much more detailed flowcharts coming, and I'm sure you people will have to put more emphasis on that area because that is technical, where you will be definitely tested on. So accordingly, activities, controls, document flows, and the areas of responsibility in different departments, all is shown in a figurative form, in a pictorial form that I've just shown. These are called system flowcharts or horizontal flowcharts. And here, this is the one I had already shown you. Next, we have the vertical flowcharts. Vertical flowcharts, the one that you can see right at the bottom of right of your screen. This is called a vertical flowchart. This is specifically for computer programs. It's also called the program flowchart because it shows a step-by-step sequential process, the sequential instruction that the computer process will process. So it's a vertical flowchart, that sometimes also called the program flowchart because it shows successive step-by-step sequences and processes that the program will execute. So it presents successive steps in a top to bottom format. I'll show you just in a minute. This is an example of a vertical flowchart. It starts, this is a start symbol, load invoice, that is computer process, read invoice instruction, this is a computer process, open PO file, open PO number exists, no, display, investigate, duplicate. If it exists, then display, and this is the whole process till it ends. So this is called a vertical or program flowchart. We know that it's a program flowchart that starts from top to bottom, and in fact it shows successive steps that a computer process will perform. So they're principally used in the depiction of specific actions carried out by computer programs. So this vertical flowchart is for the computer program instructions that is successive step by step. The flowchart that we've already seen. Next area we have is data flow diagram. Now this is little different than the flowcharts, horizontal and vertical flowcharts. So let us see these in detail. So data flow diagram show how the data flows between different points within an information system. And when we say information system, it could be a computer-based system or just a manual information system. Doesn't always need to be a computerized system. In the way documents flow in a manual system can also be an information system. But this information system can be modeled onto a computer model, still like an invoice, a purchase order, purchase requisition can move physically by a person from one table to another. Again, it's an information system. And same document in digital form can move from one computer to another. Again, it's an information system. So this data flow diagram basically show how data flow to and from and within an information system, and this could be a computer based or a manual system. So it shows the flow of information between various points in an information system, and any process that manipulates the data, and that process could be a computer process or could be a manual process. That's the important from computer point of view. So we can say that an information system based upon computer systems can be subdivided into subsystems. Like we have a overall accounting system within which we have modules, account payable, account receivables, general ledger, cash books. We have maybe inventory module within that. We have maybe some tracking of inventory materials, and there could be so many things. So a system can be subdivided into subsystems. And each subsystem can be further subdivided into even finer details. We keep on dividing system, subsystem, sub-subsystem till we reach the required level that we need to see in detail. So it could be split as finer as we want to. Various symbols that we can use. They are given in the next slide here. Data flow diagram symbols. This symbol indicates some entity, department, process, facility that is external to the information system. This symbol indicates process or data transformation being done by the computer system. This next sign indicates data store. This and storage, as I told you, could be manual or computerized. And this symbol shows the data flow. There is a detailed data flow diagram in the last of this subunit I will explain, and all these symbols will be much more meaningful then. See, there are no many symbols as we have seen in the program flow charts and the horizontal and vertical flow charts. Why? Because this data flow diagram only shows the flow of data, and that flow of data can be in manual systems or can be in computerized systems, so no such distinction is made. So here we go. Here we have a detailed process mapping of purchase order, account payable. Let me read it in detail. It's process mapping. Process mapping is a simple form of flow chart used to depict a client process. Below is an example of process map. Let's see what it is. No, it's not DFD. I was looking for data flow diagram, but in fact he has given a process flow. Okay, now this, as you can see, is an example of DFD, data flow diagram. So all you can see is just flow of data in the form of arrows showing information flowing from one point to another within the organization or within the information system. This is called DFD, data flow diagrams. And the next we had was process mapping. Just a small little subtopic within the flowcharts and data flow. What we have done is horizontal and vertical flowcharts. Then we did the data flow diagrams, DFDs, and that was my job when I started my career in Pakistan. When I came back to Pakistan, I was required to draw DFDs for a company I was appointed for. Anyways, then we have the process mapping. It's a simple form of flowchart, what we have done, vertical, horizontal, that shows a client process. Like we have an example here. Below is an example of a process map that shows some process starting and process ending. So we have an example of a PO means purchase order and AP is in accounts payable. So here we have a process mapping flowchart. Process map for invoice processing in purchasing department. Let's say it starts that we have received a vendor invoice and vendor is asking for payment. Okay, we will pay the vendor. Let us see. We will compare that vendor invoice with any purchase order. If the PO is open, this is the decision timer. I'm sure you would have seen it from the previous symbols in flowcharts. Open PO number exists? Yes. Okay. Order complete? Yes. It means that the invoice sent by the vendor and the corresponding goods have been received. Now it's the time to close this purchase order and forward to the accounts payable department for payment. The vendor invoice and the purchase goods have been received, so it's time to pay. Okay. Second situation, we have received an invoice. The purchase order is open, means it's still in process. Order complete? No, still something remains. It means the remaining items must be dealt by the purchasing department, because the missing items or the short deliveries must be followed up by the purchasing department, and the purchase order must be completed before it could be paid. Fine. Now this leg we didn't see. We received a vendor invoice. We'll compare the vendor invoice with the corresponding purchase order. Open PO number exists? No, it means there is no purchase order. Why did we receive this invoice if there is no open purchase order? Maybe the vendor might have sent a duplicate billing invoice, so we may need to investigate and stop. So this is how a process can very nicely be depicted using symbols in a flowchart. So that ends your unit 4.3.